What is up, guys? Welcome to episode number 152 of Beef's Beef. I got another great interview for you guys today. But before I get into that interview, I want to obviously talk about my sponsors. My first sponsor is Crystal Lackey at Stockton Mortgage. Hit Crystal up with any home loan needs, any refinance needs, any mortgage needs at all. When it comes to the home buying business, hit up my friend Crystal Lackey at Stockton Mortgage. You can get in contact with her at 502-615-0743. Again, it's Crystal Lackey at Stockton Mortgage. Hit her up for any home loan, any mortgage needs, anything like that. Hit her up, 502-615-0743. MLS number 8259. Stockton Mortgage MLS number one. I messed that up. I do this all the time, and I still messed it up. Stockton Mortgage is an equal housing lender. MLS number 8259. Crystal Lackey, MLS number 1735979. My next sponsor is right here. Boom. Delium. BDELLIOM. My good friend Isaac Thomas started his own clothing line. And I tell you what it is. The stuff's dope. It's pronounced Delium. I know it starts with a B, but it's BDELLIOM. Delium is a men's and women's minimalistic brand that focuses on modern aesthetic and quality. Everything comes pre-shrunk, so big guys like myself ain't got to worry about putting something in there coming out looking like a girl's clothing because it's too small. So it's already ready to wear. His men's line is at Him's Gentleman Boutique in New Albany. So go check it out there. You will not be disappointed. Now today, I welcome a former college basketball player, a former NBA player. There's a lot of things about this guy. He's a two-time NCAA champion, made it to the NCAA championship 3 years in a row, first-team Parade All-American, McDonald's All-American, played for the Harlem Globetrotters, played for the Boston Celtics, was an assistant coach for the University of Kentucky, as well as the University of Louisville. He's a former guard for the Kentucky Wildcats, played for Coach Rick Pitino and Coach Tubby Smith. Guy I always remember just being tough as nails, but never, he never had an attitude, anything like that. Just a great player, played hard, everything like that. So today I'm doing an interview with a guy by the name of Wayne Turner. Wayne Turner is a guy from Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, right outside of Boston. So he's going to give us a lot of good stories about, who he grew up playing against, like what, who he grew up admiring, everything like that. So, guys, I'm excited for you to hear this interview. Without further ado, Wayne Turner. So I'm here with Wayne Turner, man. I want to thank you again for joining me tonight. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. I appreciate you having me on.
For sure, man. Like I told you already, man, I appreciate you taking time out and joining me. I know you started your own podcast of your own, so we'll talk about that towards the end so you can plug that as much as possible. But, I added you on Facebook a couple weeks ago and was like, man, I'd love to get an interview with him. And you were like, yeah, sure, let's do it. So I got to start by asking, so you being born and raised in the Boston area, like, did you grow up like a Boston sports fan? I know you like the Patriots hat. You already told me that when we were talking before. So, like, did you grow up as a fan of the Boston sports teams?
You know what? It grew on me a little bit. Honestly, growing up, I was a Detroit Pistons fan. I loved Isaiah Thomas. I loved Joe Dumars. I just loved their team. I think when I first started watching basketball, my cousin loved the Lakers. So, and the Lakers were always running to Boston, and he always liked Magic Johnson. But when they ran into the Pistons, because I would just watch with him. I wasn't even really so much, consumed in basketball yet until I started watching with him. And then as, years went by, Reggie Lewis joined the team. I love Reggie Lewis. It was the first basketball camp. He and Gerald Henderson was the first camps. And then that was when I started to, pay more attention to the Boston Celtics. And, then I started riding that bandwagon along with the Red Sox and also the Patriots. I think the first Patriot player I ever met was Irvin Fryer. Irvin Fryer came right into my neighborhood, into the recreation center. And, he just showed up. I don't know who he was with. It wasn't like an event he came to sign autographs or nothing. Somebody in my neighborhood knew who he was, and he just popped in there. And I was like, man, that's Irvin Fryer. I don't know if people remember Irvin Fryer, but
Yeah.
he was pretty good.
That's kind of sacrilegious. So you say your cousin was a Lakers fan living in Boston?
He
That's
was he was a he was a diehard Magic Johnson fan. I mean, he
yeah.
loved Magic. He loved Magic.
So you went to high school in a suburb of Boston, at Beaver County Day in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts. What was the talent like in the league that you played in? Like, was there a lot of talented guys around your area, especially at your age?
Well, Beaver Country Day obviously was in that Brookline Chestnut Hill area. It wasn't known for athletics, and that's why they recruited me. Not basketball anyway. They wanted to uplift the athletic program, basketball team in particular. It was in a small private school league called the EIL, which was Eastern Independent League, and it wasn't a whole lot of competition in Massachusetts. Once you start going out to Connecticut and even New York and some areas in the early part of New York, it got a little better with the competition. But no, starting out, I mean, it was pretty bad. I mean, I don't want to knock the high school. It's coming a long way now, but yeah, it wasn't a lot of competition at all. I played JV in the 8th grade, and I think I think we got more fans at the JV game than the varsity game. But no, it wasn't strong competition at all in the EIL.
So you were a parade All-American and McDonald's All-American, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yes.
you probably had your choice of any school you really wanted to go to. What if you can remember back that far? I'm not trying to call you old, but do you remember who your final schools were?
Well, you know what? I ended up with 7 on my list. It was like Rutgers. I really liked George Blaney. He seemed like a really good guy. I also had Michigan on the list. I had UMass on the list. Boston College was on the list. I had Syracuse on my list. Providence was on my list. So I was thinking mainly Big East.
Yeah.
Big East was what I watched the most in college basketball. I went to a lot of Boston College games. I basically lived at Boston College, and they were really recruiting me really hard. They in Massachusetts, and also Connecticut. I think it was the 7th school. Connecticut was high on my list as well, and I tried to narrow it down. I didn't want to X anybody out so fast.
Yeah.
But I had to narrow it down to 5 schools to visit. And BC, I just felt like I had already known what the campus was like, because we had my AAU team had tournaments there, and we always just visit BC a lot. It's like right in my bed. It's only a train ride away. So I just felt like I don't need to take an official visit there. I'll save,
Yeah.
one of the
Save that for
official
one of the
visits
ones I
for us.
can't just ride a train to. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I ended up taking a visit to UMass. I took my visit to Connecticut. I visited Michigan, and I visited Syracuse, and then Kentucky came in late. They weren't even, as you notice, I didn't even mention them in my top 7.
Yeah.
They came in late, and that was mainly because a lot of schools like Duke, Kentucky, even UCLA, even Kansas would recruit me hard as well. They backed away because I don't think they thought that I was going to I was struggling with my SATs. And as soon as I got my SATs, that's when the Kentuckys came along. And then Duke called me when I was about to announce that I was going to Kentucky. That was crazy. The coach called me and he was like, Duke called today. I was like, really? I'm about to announce in like a half hour.
Do you think if Duke would have called you earlier, you would have gone to Duke?
I had a chance to visit Duke unofficially. I visited Duke unofficially. I visited UNC. I saw UNC, and this is during the national AAUs. We were in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Yeah.
We went to NC State, so we were staying at Wake Forest, so I kind of saw those schools already, and I knew they was interested. I know UNC was really, really interested early. when I was a sophomore. But then that kind of went away, like I said, with, my boards and stuff. So, yeah.
So you mentioned you could only take 5 official visits. Let's think back to that. What was the best visit you went on, and then what was the worst one, if you remember?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. My best visit was obviously Kentucky. I mean, I had a blast. I mean, it was so family oriented that's what I wanted. I wanted like brothers, you know what I'm saying? And not to knock all the other schools. I mean, I felt like they were cool with each other, but it wasn't close knit like Kentucky was. Like they were connected and you could see it. And they were very like welcoming, you know what I mean? Like you could tell they all liked one another
Yeah.
enough where they respected each other. And I liked that family atmosphere. And I hung out with Roderick Rhodes. Derek showed me the whole Lexington. He took me everywhere. I mean, I saw everything with Derek. He did an awesome job. Roderick, awesome job. And then, it was senior night when I visited. So Chris Harrison and Andre Riddick, they had a party, and that was cool. Just to be hanging out with the guys and just seeing how tight they were, seeing how happy and proud of each other they were, and I just, I had a really, really good time, and the coaching staff was pretty much, set in stone for me. I mean, it wasn't getting any better than that. So I was just like, hey, I want to do this. I've always wanted to, kind of venture off from the north back, kind of down south, in that area, and just get away from home. I wasn't planning to go that far, but
Yeah.
once I realized I got there, I was like, oh, I'm far away from home because no one wanted to come out as much. But no, it was definitely they definitely had my heart. They came in and that was it. Now the toughest visit, I mean, it was honestly, hopefully Cal doesn't see this. Honestly, UMass, I thought was a bad visit. I thought it was bad. Michigan was bad as well. It was between those two who had the worst visit. I would say UMass because I just thought with UMass, there was nobody on campus, no students. I mean, it was really few students on campus. It was during the winter break. I didn't really get to experience the classrooms. Like I didn't see campus as much as, I would have liked to. And I just thought it was just bad timing with them because I really liked UMass. I like Coach Cal. I like Bruce.
How far away was UMass from where you lived?
Yes, they were about an hour and a half away. Amherst is right next to Springfield. That's probably about hour and a half, 2 hours at the most. It was on that Connecticut line. But no, I definitely I just thought it was, and Michigan was the same. I think Michigan brought me in around the same time period, probably like maybe 2 weeks apart, and they were pressuring me to come. And UMass, they don't even know. I kept hearing about this big spring festival that is crazy in UMass. So I've always wanted to go there. My boys would come back, man, you should have came with us, blah, blah, blah. But obviously it's college and it was far away. But I was hoping they brought me in then. And I remember this manager they had. He was really, really cool. And he kept saying, man, he was like, man, you need to come back when all the sisters is here. I was just
like,
laughing.
why wouldn't you just bring me in then instead of telling me about it?
Exactly. Yeah, but no, it wasn't a good one. That I looked at it as being bad. I rated to Syracuse and UConn, and Michigan and UMass were bad visits.
Well, that was kind of like when UConn was really starting to come about because Ray Allen was just leaving, and that was because I can't think of his name now. What was the coach there?
Calhoun. Calhoun.
Calhoun really was UConn. Like he really was UConn and built UConn into what they are. and that was kind of when they were starting to become a powerhouse with Ray Allen. I couldn't have.
Right.
So you would have come there after the year Ray Allen left, then?
No, I would have went there when Ray Allen was a sophomore. So Ray Allen was a freshman when I was
That's
about
right.
to come into school. Ray Allen was actually my host on that visit.
So you would have played with him for 1 year
You know,
because he left after a sophomore year.
I visit UConn, and he was my host. They put me with him because I was telling them how much I wanted to play with Ray because he could shoot.
Oh yeah.
So I you know, this funny story, crazy story. I verbally committed to them. Yeah. Hey. I verbally committed to UConn, and Jim Calhoun did not accept my commitment.
Oh, what did he say? Why? Was he just like, "Hey, you're just doing that because you love it here right now, and I'm not accepting that"? Was it one of those?
He told me to go and like think about it. But you know what it was? They were recruiting a guy by the name of John Celestin. John was good. You know, I played against John Celestin. He ended up getting drafted by the Lakers, and he basically went to Villanova. He didn't even go. He ended up going to Villanova.
Wow.
So then they started coming after me after that. And I was telling my coach, I said, I'm all set. Like, this is on an unofficial visit.
So you committed on an unofficial visit. He said no.
I was like UConn was almost like Boston College. Like I was almost going to all the games, you know, that was at UConn that year. I at least went to at least three or four games throughout my high school career at UConn. And I liked it. I mean, it was close to home. You know, they were good at the time. Like you said, they were on that uprise. I think they lost to like Florida in the Elite Eight or something in '95. I think Florida went to the Final Four. They beat UConn in the Elite Eight. And they were good. I mean, and Ollie was leaving that year. It was Kevin Ollie was the point guard. He was leaving the next year. Deron Sheffer was like a combo guard. But you know, I felt like I could play with Deron Sheffer. I thought he could move over to the 2 and Ray could slide to the 3. You know, in college because he was 6'5". But yeah, I was hurt when they did that. And I just shut him off after that.
Yeah, I mean, that's understandable. You commit to a school because you feel at home, and he's like, "Oh, you go think about it." Then you come to find out it's because he's recruiting somebody else, and yeah, that's shady.
I felt bad for Carl Hobbs. Carl Hobbs is a Boston guy, Roxbury guy. You know, really, really good friends with my godfather, who was my assistant coach at the time. And he was hurt, you know. He was calling me every morning, and I was just like, Coach, I'm all set, you know. I mean, the guy didn't want me, you know. So, hey, it is what it is.
So I know you came into Kentucky with Ron Mercer. You two were teammates in the McDonald's All-American game, right?
Yes.
Who else came into that class with you guys?
We had it was obviously myself and Ron. Then you had Oliver Simmons. He was from Tennessee. You had Nazir Muhammad came in that year. And then we had a guy by the name of Jason Latham. Jason Latham was, I forget what part of Kentucky he was from, but I think he was like the player of the year that year in Kentucky. And yeah, that was our recruiting class right there. And obviously Derek Anderson was going to be playing that year.
But he had set out coming from Ohio State, right?
Yeah, he had already been there, but coming in that year as far as freshmen, we were the 5 people that came in that year.
So I want you to think back, you know, you go to Kentucky and this is your first practice, and you always hear about like what type of practices Coach Pitino has. So what was that like, your first stepping in the gym? You have that practice. Was it as hard as you always hear it was, or was it kind of a myth, or what would you say?
It was tough, you know, and, you know, being nervous and, you know, wanting to just practice well. It was a tough practice. I think because, in the first one, you don't really know what to expect. It definitely looked a lot easier watching on my visit. That's
Yeah.
for sure. But um, no, it was tough because you had a lot of older guys. There was some experienced guys there, and then there was it was just competitive. I mean, I think that was the toughest part. I mean, as far as conditioning wise, like I think I don't think that hurt as much because I mean we conditioned so hard in the preseason. We were ready to get on that court and go.
Yeah.
The toughest part was just like the pressing. The pressing was the toughest because you're gonna get tired regardless. But it's as a point guard, I'm handling the ball. So I was just turning. I mean, I was turning the ball over and over. So with the turnovers come, you getting yelled at. So man, and I just remember like, wow, like I've never, felt that much pressure in my life on the court. And I just had to. I know me and Ron every day we would mentally prepare ourselves, to go and practice, and try to kill somebody because we was at that point we was playing for playing time in
Yeah.
the beginning. But it was tough. It's the mental factor though, really. You just got to be mentally. You had to be mentally tough going into his practices because if you wasn't gonna make it. It was gonna be tough for you.
So you just mentioned that. So you coming in as a McDonald's All-American, did you have a mindset that you were going to start right off, or did you already know you were going to come off the bench because of the talent that was already there?
Well, I think Coach said I had an opportunity to start. I don't think I wanted to start. Yeah, I did. But I felt like Kentucky was so experienced and they had so many guys returning, like a Jeff Shepard, like Anthony Epps, and like, Tony. And then you bring in Derek Anderson and Ron, and not to forget about Allen Edwards. I was like, okay, well, you know, I'm going to fight for a spot, but if I don't start, it is what it is. I'm still going to fight for playing time because one thing Coach said was it don't matter if you start. It's about who's plays the most minutes, about the minutes you play
Or
and
who
who's in
finishes the
there
game?
at the end.
Yeah.
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 So, I think when that stuck with me, I was okay because Coach called me in his office. He said, you know what? It's going to be tough for me to start you this year because, I just have to, give Tony a shot at the one because scouts at the time, they would, discriminate whether he was a one or two, if he could play the one and if he could run a team. And, in the end, it didn't even really matter because he still went first round. And, but I understood it and I had time to grow. And, it was definitely a learning experience that first year.
So you see the flag behind me. I'm a Louisville fan, but I got to ask you a question. So you coming in on that team, you mentioned some of the players. You didn't even mention all of them. You didn't even mention Antoine Walker or Walter McCarty or guys like that. That 95-96 Kentucky Wildcats team, in my opinion, is the best college basketball team ever assembled. Would you agree or disagree with that statement? And try to take all biases out of it, which I know it's tough because you play for that team. But would you say that that's the best team ever assembled in college basketball?
I mean, you gotta like, and I was talking with one of my teammates, and asking him about, that question, and I think it was either Tony or someone I asked, and I basically, agreed to, we hadn't seen those UCLA teams, so we don't know what those teams look like, because that's what always becomes, well, what about those teams? Outside of those teams, we definitely are. I mean, because I've never saw them play. I've never seen the teams play, but I felt like because we had a bench that was so strong. I mean, our bench could have played, well, started anywhere in the country. I think everybody that was on that bench could have went somewhere and played significant minutes at a top-notch D1 school. And I think what separated us a lot from a lot of the greater teams was, we was 40 minutes pressure. Like, I mean, it never stopped. And you could make a sub and it didn't hurt us at all.
Yeah.
I felt like we never dropped off. And, I mean, you got 9 guys who played in the NBA. I think it was like maybe 4 or 5 draft lottery picks. I mean, it's hard to argue. We're not the best team of that era anyway. I mean, let alone, let's forget the 50s, whatever, the 60s. We're talking about 80s and on. Like, I mean, I just felt like we shot the ball from the 3, 1 through 5. I mean, even Mark Pope shot the 3. Walter shot the 3. I mean, our big men were such great passers. Like, we don't get credit. Our team never got credit for that. Like, Mark was a great passer. Walt was a great passer. Antoine, I mean, he could play the point if you told him to. So, I mean, and our defense was just, I mean, it was so fun to run around, press trap. And we thought, it was fun, but the other teams were miserable. They
Oh,
were like,
yeah.
man, y'all still pressing? Like, yeah. And then here comes another group fresh pressing. So,
I mean, you got to think at some point you're probably the third string point guard when he's playing Tony at the 1, because it's you and Anthony Epps and Tony.
I was.
And that's nuts to think about, because you're arguably one of the best defenders, on-ball defenders to play at Kentucky. Like, just from watching Kentucky basketball, I would put you up there with the Rondos. I mean, I feel like Tony Delk was a very good on-ball defender.
Mm-hmm.
I would put you up there. And, like, to think that at that point, like, you could bring in your third string point guard, he's going to lock down your number 1. Like, that's nuts to think about.
It's true. And I mean, you can even put Shep at the 1. I mean, Shep played the 1, Jeff Shepard, his whole sophomore season.
That guy
and,
got up too, man.
He was just so loaded. I mean, it was just, and everybody, accepted their role and just played hard. I mean, I love that squad, man. It was such fun memories.
So you averaged 13 minutes a game your freshman year. Once the rotations were set and you were like, all right, this is kind of the minutes that I'm getting, what did you think, like, all right, this is what I'm going to try to accomplish in those 13 minutes? Like, was it to, like, show, hey, I deserve more playing time, or was it like, hey, I'm just going to get the best out of the 13 minutes that I'm getting?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of knew what games you were going to get in. Like, like Louisville game, I probably wasn't going to play that much. All the bigger games where experience matter, like Indiana. I got in, but it wasn't a whole lot. But it was definitely a good experience. And yeah, you're right. Like, at one point during the season, I knew, when at some point I was going to get in, whether we was playing bad or whether we was playing good. I knew that, okay, Anthony need a break, or whoever it was, I was going to go in, for that break. And when I went in, I just tried to run the team and, play good defense. I really looked for my own offense as far as penetrating and being aggressive. But, one of the things I focused on was just trying to run the team, because that was something fairly new to me, because I didn't play point guard in high school, not for my high school team. I was like point forward,
So, man, that school really was small, man, because I grew up I'm from Portland, so I went to a small school as well. So, like, guys like your height was playing center and stuff in the teams we played. So you played something like that as well, because you're what, 6'3", 6'2"?
I'm 6'2". 6'2".
And you were playing forward. Like, yeah, that tells me everything I need to know about the league that you played in then. Because if you're playing a point forward, then yeah, you were playing some tiny schools.
Don't get me wrong, like, there were other teams that had bigger players too. I mean, by the time I was a senior in high school, we had developed a team, where we was playing like the elite prep schools, like the you know, we didn't play Brewster, but we played like the MCIs and the New Hampton Preps, you know, schools of that nature, Brewster academies like that. But in the beginning, no, I didn't have a center. I was I was kind of the center, you know. I'd say around my sophomore, going into my junior year, I had to jump center.
That's that's great. So something I'd like to ask guys that are from out of town, with you being from up near Boston, what was the game against Louisville like? You mentioned the Louisville game. What was the game like for you? Like, you have two different views. Obviously, you were a coach, and obviously you're a player, which is what we're talking about now. Like, did it feel different as a player and as a coach? And then, first off, I want to ask you, what was the rivalry like when you first got into it? Because I know your first year, you absolutely dog walked Louisville. So like, what was it like though going into that game and then going into, because I believe you all played at home the first year, I believe.
Yeah, we did. Yep.
What was it like though? Because even though I know you are playing at home, I know there's got to be some type of pressure that you can just feel when you go in the building. Because I've been in the games at the Yum Center, and like when that game happens, it doesn't matter when it is. Like you can literally cut the tension with a knife inside there. It's insane. So was it like that for you whenever you got into Rupp Arena that day, or was it just another game?
I mean, it was intense, man. Hey, from that whole week of practice, like, I mean, oh my gosh, it was that game right there was. I know it was an urgency from Coach Pitino. I don't think I understood how urgent the game was as a freshman.
Yeah.
But it was urgent, and I didn't understand. Like I was, you know, I would ask the guys like, "Coach is on one today," and they'd be like, "Hey, you better be ready to practice today." So, and that was the days where our walkthroughs was like many hour practices. It wasn't a walkthrough. You get taped up for our walkthroughs. So,
wow.
But I never really understood the rivalry just yet. I was just a little, a little cub. So I didn't understand it probably until my junior year when we got beat in Rupp. Then I understood because we went to Freedom Hall the next year.
Yeah.
And we won. We beat them at Freedom Hall, and then the next 2 years I experienced the losses, and man, I'm telling you, I felt it then.
Yeah.
I knew what it was about then. I did. I knew it was an important game. I always knew it was important. It was bragging rights, but I didn't know how it felt on the losing side.
Yeah.
And that right there was like, okay.
Now I understand the rivalry.
We can't be losing this game.
So early on in your freshman year, you all lost to the UMass team you just brought up, coached by Coach Cal. What was different the second game, in your opinion, that helped you all get the win and then move on to play in the championship game against Syracuse?
Well, Coach, she shuffled the lineup. Obviously, Tony was at the one. Tony was starting at the one. And he did a good job against Maryland. We blew Maryland out in the tip-off classic, Hall of Fame game in Springfield. We blew them out. And he did a great job. I think he might have had like 30 that game too, playing the one. And, then when we ran into Massachusetts, obviously it was a different, they had Marcus Camby, Dana Dingle, Dante Bright. They was loaded. So, Travieso and Padilla was solid guards. So it was a little tougher. And obviously Cal's a great coach. He was good back then as well. And, it was just a struggle because we needed Tony to score that game, So the second game, him not being on the ball as much, running the offense, it allowed him to score and play freely and comfortably in the position he had been playing in the last 2 years. So, that adjustment right there. And then we did a better job on Marcus Camby, even though he kind of still got his. He didn't get him like he got him when we played him in Auburn Hills.
Like,
I
do you
think
think that you guys did you already know how good they were going into that first game, or was it just like it kind of hit you all by surprise with how really good they were?
no, we knew they were good because they was ranked number 5 in the nation when they played us. So we knew, and they always had knocked off number ones. I mean, that was the thing. Like they were known for knocking off number 1 teams like when they first play them. So I mean, no, coach made it clear that this team's a veteran team and they're good. And if we don't come to play, we could get beat.
Yeah.
And thinking back to that first game, like Antoine wasn't even in the lineup. Derek wasn't in the lineup. So our lineup when we got to the Final Four was totally. You had Anthony Epps. I think when we first played them in Detroit, our lineup was Tony at the 1. It was I want to say I believe Derek was at the 2. Then you had Ron at the 3. You had Walter at the 4, and then you had Mark Pope at the 5. So going back, you took Ron out the lineup, you put Anthony Epps in there. Now you have Anthony Epps, Tony Delk, Derek Anderson, Antoine Walker at the 4, and then Walter McCarty at the 5. I mean, that was the lineup pretty much thereon after we lost that first game to UMass.
The athleticism and shooting in that lineup is insane. Just think about that 1 through 5.
Oh man, it was crazy. Like the pressure, the amount of pressure that our second team had to, deal with going against that team. It was tough.
Like you all played better teams in practice than you did in games.
Practice was way harder than games. Way harder than practice. Games was like almost like a day off, honestly, because it just wasn't as intense, man. Like, and guys would. That was the days when you could touch somebody. These days you can't touch nobody.
Yeah.
You can actually put that get that forearm on them back in our day and grab a little bit, and there's no foul. So imagine how practice would be doing all the coach didn't call foul. That was part of practice, unless someone got, hammered. But no, man, it was no holds barred.
So other than UMass, do you remember the other team you all lost to that year?
We lost to Mississippi State. I remember it clearly. We all went ball. We cut our hairs. We cut our heads ball. Well, all the black guys anyway. But I wasn't mad at, Cameron and Jeff and Jared and those guys. I wasn't mad at them. Ron didn't cut his hair. Ron was probably the only one.
So whose idea was that?
It was Derek Anderson's idea. Derek said, let's go ball. It was either him or Anthony Epps. I think it was Derek, though. And we all went ball. I mean, I was like, I never went ball. Well, let's do it then.
Yeah.
So we did it, and then we lost, and then coach told us.
So grow your hair back out. We need to win again.
He has something to say about the ball heads. But, yeah, we lost to them, and, it was a tough one to lose. Everybody thinks coach threw the game. We'll never know. But Mississippi State, I give credit to them.
I remember that game. I was pretty young, but I remember it was they had a guy named Dante Jones, right? And
Dante Jones was really good. They had a great shooter, Darryl Wilson was really good. Their point guard, Marcus Bullitt, was pretty good. They had Eric Dampier down low. I mean, they had some, they had a few pros over there.
I just remember Dante Jones hit some key free throws at the end of the game to put the game away. That's what I remember the most. And like I said, I'm a Louisville fan, and I was pretty young, but I liked watching you all play. And I remember that game, you all losing. I was just like, I'm not used to seeing them lose. Like, it's weird seeing them lose.
We were getting blown out too. They beat us by some points. They did.
So what was it like? If you can think back to your freshman year, you all beat Syracuse and Donovan McNabb, which is still pretty crazy to think about. Donovan McNabb was on that team. What was it like winning a championship your freshman year? Like, but
he got in at the end. I was like, that's McNabb.
Yeah.
I mean, it was cool. It was the reason why I went to Kentucky. honestly. I mean, I wanted to, I knew, once they came into my recruiting, I knew they had just lost the year before in the Elite Eight. And I watched them play against Michigan in that Final Four, Mashburn. And funny story, my cousin was one of my cousins anyway, was a huge Mashburn fan. Before I even really paid attention to Mashburn, he always talked about his crossover. But yeah, after winning it, it was incredible. I mean, to see the amount of fans that was in New York, I mean, it was stupid. Like, I was like, wow, this is crazy. But I think the reaction when I went back home kind of took me for, that was like, something really happened. Like, it was like when you get home and your home people start, saluting and, telling you how much they're proud of you, then that's when like, okay, we really, like, this is bigger than what, I think it really is. Because you think it's just Kentucky, because Kentucky fans, they could be, somewhat obnoxious. But but when you go home, when I went home, I was like, wow, they had a celebration for me and everything. It was cool.
That's cool. So
It was cool.
Going to your sophomore year, because you feel and like the collective team, because you guys lost a lot off of that team. I mean, you guys lost you guys lost Tony Delk, you guys lost Antoine Walker, you guys lost Walter McCarty and Mark Pope, right?
Yep, Mark Pope. Yep.
So you going into that 97 season, did you feel like you all still had enough to win it back to back?
Yeah, I thought we did. I honestly did. I felt like, we was getting Jared Prickett back, who just had redshirted the year before. Ron was going to be a sophomore. I was going to be a sophomore. Derek was going to be a senior. Anthony was a senior. Allen Edwards was going to be a junior. I mean, Cameron Mills even was going to be a junior that year. And I just felt like, we had the experience to come back, to at least compete in the NCAA tournament. And then also Nazir had improved a whole lot. And then we went out and recruited. Jamal McGlure came in. He was a great shot blocker, really athletic. And I just felt like it was just a matter of us just, connecting together, like finding out who those stars were going to be. And then once we saw, I mean, it was obvious, Ron and Derek were our guys. And I think everybody just kind of jumped on their backs and just, followed their league as far as, knowing who our producers were on the offensive end. Shepard redshirted that year, but I felt like we had so many guards, it really didn't hurt us as much.
You guys got Scott Padgett back though, right?
Scott Padgett came back kind of maybe toward the end of our preseason schedule. He came in. I remember that like yesterday. He came and we were playing Georgia Tech. He came, had a great game, his first game too. And he helped us a lot, because stretch the floor, he would go down and bang. I love playing with Scott.
Yeah. So you guys are rolling through the schedule. Actually, I'm sorry, the first actual game of the season, you guys lose to Clemson in Indianapolis. Did that game kind of like wake you guys up? Like what do you feel happened in that game that you guys lost to a Clemson team?
I'll tell you one thing, it took me right out of the lineup.
So it woke you up then, I guess, at least.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were good. Once again, they were a ranked team. I think we were third in the country and they were like 7 or 8. They were in the top 10. I mean, they had a good team. And, we lost in overtime. I think Derek fouled out. And it wasn't like, a game where, I think it was like our second or third game or something, but it was the biggest game. And it wasn't like, we just played terrible. It just wasn't. I just felt like it wasn't coach's expectations. But that team was good. I mean, I think they finished pretty well in the ACC that year. But it definitely woke us up. I think the only change he really made was putting Anthony in for me. And it was a smart move because, I earned the spot, no doubt, but I still, you know, was uncomfortable with shooting up the outside shot, the 3-point shot, and teams were giving me that. And I think Coach wanted me to still feel like I had to work hard. So taking me out the lineup, obviously, I'm gonna come to practice, mad that next day,
Yeah.
knowing that I wasn't in the lineup no more. And it really didn't discourage me at all. I just it just made me work harder. But yeah, that was a tough game to lose. I think we lost by like maybe 2 or 3 in overtime. And kudos to Clemson. They got it done right in the Indianapolis. What was it? The RCA Dome.
That was the Kentucky boy, right? Clem Haskins. Wasn't he the coach at Clemson?
He wasn't coaching Clemson. Rick Barnes, I believe, was. I think it was Rick Barnes at the time who was coaching Clemson.
Okay.
I almost want to believe that.
That doesn't even, it sounds crazy to think about. He
Right.
was coaching back then because
Right.
I didn't really know anything about Rick Barnes until Texas, really.
Right. No, I want to believe it was Rick Barnes because I know we played him again my junior year.
Yeah.
In Arizona in the Phoenix Suns Arena. American Airlines, I don't know if they still play it now, but it was American Airlines. And I kept saying to myself, we got to get them back.
Yeah. So you guys are rolling through the schedule after that Clemson game, and you all get to a game against Auburn in late January. And I know you know what I'm going to ask about here or talk about here, and down goes Derek Anderson with a torn ACL. You had just spoke on how he and Ron that was your all's guys. Like you all pretty much got on their back when it's just riding them and playing off of them. How did the team respond? First off, like let's talk about immediate, because obviously when you see your brother like that go down, it's never fun. But like, how did the team respond in the immediate, and then like, how do you feel like as a team you guys responded to losing one of your best players?
Well, it was devastating. I know I felt terribly bad for Derek. It was his senior year. He was having an All-American year. And Derek, great teammate, great person to play with, always positive, energy guy, and he had been through, a transfer, like coaching change. He had already had an ACL before he got that one. And, it was just, it hurt. I think I might have even cried for him a little bit because I just felt like, wow, that, he has so many, he has so much expectations. I just thought his career was over, you know what I mean? Because I've never seen no one get injured like that. And, I think the biggest thing for us was to just stay positive and figure out, like, one thing Coach Pitino said was, no one's going to replace Derek. And he was right. I mean, there was no one, as good as Derek on our team. As far as the things he brought to our team. And what he said was, we got to make up for what he does well. Like someone's got to come in and give us some scoring. Someone's got to fill in, what he did for us on defense. Because he was that guy that was just all over the place on defense. He can catch an alley-oop on offense. He'll hit a three. He was just a real, great player. I mean, he was at one point in 1996, Coach Pitino was saying Derek Anderson was our best player on the team. And if you saw our practices, people would agree because, I mean, he was, it was like, wow, you know what I mean? Like He was ready to go. So losing him was definitely hurt. But we knew, we were still a good team. But we still could be a good team without Derek as well, because we had guys that was just salivating to play like myself. Yeah. So, You know, and I just took it upon myself. I was going to be that guy defensively that was going to make up for what Derek did defensively. I was going to be in the passing lanes, try to rebound, try to take some charges. He's a great charge guy. And, you know, and that was the void the part of the void I was feeling that we were missing from him. And I think Cameron, you know, came in and helped with the offense. I mean, he just stepped up his game big time offensively. I mean, I contributed a little bit offensively as well.
Yeah.
But Cameron and then Ron just took his game up to another level. You know, I mean, he started, you know, getting like 30. 30 was like a typical night for him. So, you know, and then we just started, you know, at one point when we realized, okay, this is what it's going to be. You know, everybody got with each other, and we basically just said, hey, you know, we could still get there. And we all believed that, you know.
So I noticed you guys played South Carolina twice, and you all lost to them twice. And one player I remember from the team was B.J. Mackey. But what was it that was kind of like it seemed like they were your kryptonite when you all played them during that season? Like, what was it that they did that gave you guys such fits?
Well, BJ and Melvin Watson and I don't know why Larry, forget his last name, but they were good. They were good. I mean, it was just real. Like BJ, real crafty, and he's a classmate. You know, he's in that '95 class. I played against him in the McDonald's, and then Melvin Watson as well. I ran into him in AAU. He was just so fast. You know, so their quickness, we couldn't really press them as much as we did with other teams because they had a 3-guard lineup. And, you know, and if you know, I mean, I don't want to jump too far, but if you look at all those games, you know, the games where we struggled, they had good guards. And, you know, it was tough to play in South Carolina. It was tough to play at South Carolina. We should have beat them at home the last game, the senior night. But, you know, they made some plays that we didn't make.
Yeah.
But they were good players. They were good offensive players. They really were.
So the team rolled through up to the Final Four in the tournament. And during that game, Coach Pitino brought in Derek Anderson to shoot 2 free throws after a technical foul. You remember this?
Yep.
What was it like to see a guy that you just said that you remember you maybe even cried when to see just 2 months earlier? Because I'm thinking back let's think back even 15 years ago. Like you said, an ACL pretty much ends somebody's career, it seems like. And to think back another 10 years from that, so that's, you know, pretty much 25 years we're thinking back. What was it like to see a guy like Derek Anderson just 2 months after tearing his ACL come in, hit 2 free throws, and like it was nothing, just come in and still hit them?
You know what? It was amazing, but I wasn't surprised because Derek had been practicing with us when we went out west. Derek was practicing with us while we were making that run to the Final Four. And honestly, like, I mean, people could think I'm lying or whatever, but Derek probably came back his first practice and was the best player in practice that day. Like, seriously, like he was getting steals, dunks. I'm thinking he's gonna play. You know what I mean? Like he could play. And even though our practice wasn't long, it was like an hour because coach was shortening the practices during tournament. We practiced like an hour and a half, you know, depending on how the practice went.
Yeah.
You know, usually it was about an hour and a half. And Derek came back that practice. I remember we was at the University of San Francisco. So I remember the Bill Russell, you know, Bill Russell championships and thinking like, wow, we're in Bill Russell's, you know, college gym. But anyways, he practices and I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, y'all just throwing him the ball. Like, how's he getting all these steals? Like, what's going on? And, you know, it was really good to see him back playing. I mean, we had been watching him even before we left, training, rehabbing, trying to get back with a trainer while we were practicing in Memorial. But when he got on that road and that happened, I was like, that was the question, on our bus, like, is he gonna play or what? Like, what's up? But it didn't happen. But when he got in the game, honestly, when he got in that game, I thought that was it. I was like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
But when he took him out, I was like, oh man.
So you are going to win that game against Minnesota, and you move on to face Arizona. What do you remember the most? Because you had experience the year before going into a title game, so the nerves, even I'm sure they were still there. Did you have more nerves your sophomore year because you knew you had a bigger role, or did the previous year kind of help you with that?
I mean, the previous year did help because, I got to watch, and, I also got to, experience the play in there a little bit. I played against UMass. But it was a little nerve-wracking, because it was my first start in the NCAA championship game, and even in the Final Four. And it was more so being nervous, like, that you didn't want to lose. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that was more of the anxiety factor with me. I was trying to erase the fact that we could lose this game and be done. And, it was pretty, it was pretty hard sleeping the night before.
Was there anything that stuck out about that game to you? Like, I noticed the foul numbers were a little lopsided, and I saw Miles Simon shot 17 free throws. Like, did you feel like they were keying in on how you all played defense, or maybe were calling it a little tighter than what they normally did? Or did you feel like it was like, well, because you said you all were in San Francisco, is that right?
Well, we played them in Indianapolis.
Okay. Oh, that's okay.
RCA Dome. We was practicing before we went to the Final Four. The run to the Final Four, we were practicing at San Francisco. We played
okay, I got you.
out west in San Jose. We played. We beat Utah in the Elite Eight to go to the Final Four that year. But when we get, I just thought that it did seem a little tic-tac with some of the calls, being that we both were a running team and, guards, being that we were pressing, we pressed all year. I mean, I thought some of the calls were a little, tic-tac, but, you can't blame the referees.
Yeah.
But, 17 to 18 free throws, because everybody's like, well, Miles Simon had 30 on y'all. Like, well, I mean, all he had to do was make 17 free throws and then the rest. I mean,
yeah.
5 baskets.
Because he really didn't shoot that well from the field when I looked at the box score. He shot, I think, 15 for 17 from the free throw line. That was where he beat you all, was at the free throw line.
Exactly. And, and Bibby had a good game. I mean, Jason Terry coming off the bench, they were knocking off people already before they even got to us. They beat 3 number 1 seeds to win the whole thing. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But Eric, what's his name?
Eric Dickerson.
Yeah, he was good. I mean, he
had some time in the league too. Yeah.
He was 16th pick to Houston, I believe. I still remember it. And he was having a bad tournament, and he finally hits his 3 against us.
Yeah.
He finally make a shot against us. And, I mean, but I don't overlook their bigs. Their bigs were good as well. They had A.J. Bramlett, Bennett Davison, and then Eugene Ergerson. I mean, they were tough players.
Yeah.
And, they made some plays down the stretch that we didn't. I fouled out. I think Scott might have fouled out. Ron fouled out. And that was a tough one, man. That one right there was really hard to swallow, because I felt like, we could have definitely won that game.
Yeah.
I don't know how Scott got mixed up with Bibby at the end. Every time I look at that, I'm like, will somebody go run a double team? Because he just went right by Scott and dropped it off. And it is what it is. You know, I mean, all credit to them. They played well. They definitely did, and they made the big plays when it was time to make them.
So I got to ask the question because it's the question that I know all of my UK fan friends always talk about. Um, Derek Anderson. You think Coach made the right decision in not playing him in that game?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think he had Derek's career more so in his best interest than him just playing in that Final Four game. And it was a risk. You know, I think even more so, you know, not just Derek's career being at risk, but you know, also coach's reputation too
True.
for making that decision. But you know, I think you know he generally cared about his players, and you know, obviously Derek, he knew Derek was a pro even before that ACL, and I think he just wanted Derek to focus on getting back healthy, getting stronger, and focusing on the workouts that he was going to be going to, you know, for those NBA teams because it was more long term. You know, he had proved what he could do and what he was on the college level. And as much as we wanted to win that, you know, that Final Four, that championship with Derek, you know, I think he made the right decision, just, you know, letting Derek, you know, just stay out of that one.
So after that season, obviously we spoke about it, you guys ended up losing to Arizona in the championship game. And in your mind, I'm sure you're like, all right, cool. Making championships every year at Kentucky. Well, let's do it again next year. We'll Coach Pitino. We'll run it back. But then Coach Pitino leaves and goes to Boston. How did you guys find out about that? Like, did he tell you all before he took the job, like, hey, this is what's going on, like Boston's talking to me? Or was it just like it kind of hit you guys out of nowhere when he told you all he was leaving? Or how did it come about to you guys?
Well, we heard whispers. I mean, you hear them all the time. I even heard whispers when I even signed to go to Kentucky that coach would probably take an NBA job. You know, that was one of the biggest questions I had for him because I at least wanted to play at least 2 or 3 years with him. I mean, obviously, you know, opportunities come about, especially in coaching business. Now I've been a coach, you know, it's hard to pass up the good ones. And, you know, one thing he told me before when I asked him that question is the only way he would leave is if he was able to, you know, fire his own self, you know, be someone in more, you know, in a power position. So, and have more control of the team. So, you know, when that came about after that last game, you know, it was kind of, you know, in the air. We heard it. And you know, he called us in. He called us in one by one. He had individual meetings. I think he had a team meeting with us first. Then he had the individual meeting, basically in the team meeting telling us that, you know, the opportunities on the table and his possibility he might take it. And then when he was going to take it, he called us in individually and told us it was a situation he just couldn't pass up. And, you know, knowing the situation now, it definitely, I mean, there was no way. I mean, I couldn't feel bad about him, you know, doing so. I mean, he was going to the NBA. I looked at it more positive, like, well, he coached us here. You know, we got a connection in the NBA now.
Yeah.
So, no, he definitely was upfront with us, letting us know, you know, what move he was going to make.
So were you guys informed of like how the coaching search was going or like who they were looking at or anything?
Not, yeah, kind of, not really. You know, CM Newton at the time, who was the athletic director, he came in, met with us. He actually asked us, you know, who we want, who will we consider. I mean, it wasn't going to be the overall decision, but he just
Yeah.
wanted some ideas with some players. I think
Do-
a lot of players like Billy Donovan, and then obviously Coach Smith had more experience as a head coach, and we all liked that decision as well. And you know, we kind of figured that Coach Smith will be the one.
Because he was at Georgia at the time, right?
He
Yeah.
was, and we had played against them, and their style was similar. And you know, I know I had heard great things about Coach. He was a great person. other than a great coach, he was a great person himself. And, you know, we were all in, with him coming in.
So they hired Coach W. Smith. What was your first impression of him when you first met him? Like when he came and met you guys at the first meeting?
Well, he was down to earth, very down to earth. I think, because we're both African American, I could relate to, what he was saying to me a lot more, in terms of like just life lessons, than Coach. Well, not to say that Coach, I didn't understand him. I did, but Coach had he was more of a personable guy, Coach Smith, than Coach Pitino was. Now, Coach Pitino has gotten more personable with his players, but I just felt like Coach Smith was more personable, as far as like asking you about how your family was doing and stuff like that, and how you doing, you know what I mean, outside of basketball, and just me the person. And I just felt like he was definitely someone that was qualified for that job to coach us.
So I want to ask you a question. This wasn't on there, but just hearing that, I want to ask this because I feel like this is do you felt like you grew more as a player under Coach Pitino or under Coach Smith because of the different ways that you were coached? Or do you feel like maybe you grew the same and you just grew in different ways?
Yeah, I felt like I was growing the same. I may have grown a little more with Coach Pitino because from my freshman year to my sophomore year in the tournament, I made a jump. And I think after my sophomore year, when I got with Coach Smith, I was kind of groomed a little bit. You know what I mean? Like being that junior, I had that experience. I knew what it felt like in the weight room. I knew like, okay, I got to improve my free throws. I got to improve my outside shot. I got to keep teams honest. So I already knew what I needed to do to be good. So I honestly felt like I grew more with Coach Pitino because I had so much more to learn when I first got with him. By the time Tubby came in, I had learned a lot. I pretty much knew everything as far as the college game. I knew how to lead our team. I knew how to be vocal, which I didn't know how to do when I was with Coach Pitino. I was a quiet point guard, and I was told about it. He said, your personality sucks as a point guard. And for me, oh man, it ripped me up. And I know what he was doing. He was basically saying, you need to, you know what I'm saying? You have to talk more. You got to be more aggressive and, direct guys a little more. And by the time Coach Smith came in, I was already doing that. I had already gained, the following of my teammates, whenever I spoke.
I think that's what made Anthony Epps so good as a point guard. Like, dude was just like a bulldog, man. And it was like.
And I learned a lot from Anthony. I watched Anthony. I learned how he spoke to the guys, how they, reacted to him. And, he was just a general out there. And I was like, you know what, we're competing for this position, but let me just take a page out of his book, and understand what he's doing well. That's getting him all that playing time when I'm not doing so well.
So what was the comparison in practice wise? First practice with Coach W. Smith, was it like, oh man, this is a breeze compared to what we did with Coach Pitino?
It was different. It wasn't a breeze, but it was different. It was different because we had different principles on defense. We overplayed the lanes. We were in the passing lanes more. With Coach Pitino, we were more ball line help. Now, we were ball line help with Coach Smith too, and that's what made it even tougher to get in the passing lane because you had to know when to be in the passing lanes, and that was something you got to understand. Like someone like a Jeff Shepard or even Allen Help, they hadn't done their whole career. until that senior year. So it was tough for me just in that third year. And I'm like, man, I don't like, we didn't like it
Yeah.
because we weren't used to it and we weren't good at it. And that's why we didn't. So it was tough in the mental aspect of trying to buy into what coach was, trying to get us to do defensively. Offensively, I mean, we adjusted to that, right away. I mean, it was a similar type of offense. It was somewhat similar to what coach did with us, Coach Pitino anyway.
So you guys, in your junior year, you guys played in the Maui Invitation. I got to ask, is that tournament as fun as it looks like on TV?
Man, that tournament is like heaven. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't even know if that's the right word to say, but you were on the beach. I mean, there's a pool here, pool there. It's a tough tournament to play in because
everybody wants to play in it.
You want to be on vacation too, though.
Yeah. That's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Before we got our butts kicked by Arizona, our dumb selves, I could say it now, was playing tackle football in the sand on the beach. Like, right, the day before the game. You know what I mean? Like, me, Nazi, I think it was a photographer. I still have pictures of it. Like, it was a photographer taking pictures of us playing football on the beach,
So obviously, Coach Smith had no idea.
Oh, he definitely didn't know we were doing that. He definitely didn't know. There's no way he knew. And, we're just kids just just having fun. Just a couple of Arizona cheerleaders around, Everybody's got their shirts off. No, Maui was cool. It was even better when I went back with Coach Cal as a grad assistant coach.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That I actually got to see like the town.
Yeah. So your own second round opponent you just mentioned was Arizona, and you guys lost again. Would you say that's what sparked you guys to win 10 straight, was losing to them again?
Oh man, that was the worst game of probably my career right there. I mean, it was a bad game for me, and Arizona, I think, was number one coming out the gate.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was like, man, we get these guys again. Shep, you actually can play this game. Like, man, we got to get these guys. But they were, they came out and just.
They pretty much had their entire team back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And they just kind of punched us in the mouth early, and we just never really recovered from it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, our chemistry, something was off. And, they pretty much got the best of us that game. But that was definitely a smack in the face saying, don't think you're just going to walk back to the Final Four, to the championship game. You're still going to have to, play as hard as you did last year. And that, I know for Coach, definitely, I think he even made some changes the next game, down low or whatever. And, we took it out on Missouri.
So, like I said, you guys won 10 straight, and then I had to bring it up. You got the team that ended y'all's winning streak was Louisville. What was it that I'm asking it not to give a dig, because like I said, I'm a Louisville fan, but I'm not doing it to dig. I'm just saying, what did you feel like they did differently, because you had already beaten them, and you all beaten them pretty good the first 2 years. Like, I remember the game in Freedom Hall, Derek Anderson dunking on Nate Johnson's head, and like, I'll give you a little side story. So I'm the second youngest of 8. Some of my brothers are Kentucky fans. Most of us are Louisville fans. Well, one of my brothers decides to cut that clipping out of the newspaper, and it gets it laminated. And then after he got it laminated, he put it next to my bed. So whenever I woke up, that was the first thing that I saw.
Oh, wow.
so yeah, like it was not fun for me when that stuff was happening. So
wow.
What did you feel like Coach Crum and the Cardinals did as like to say, okay, we got to do something differently? What do you think they did differently to beat you guys, especially in Rupp, because it's one of the toughest places to play in the history of college basketball?
Well, I don't know what they did to Eric Johnson, but he played his butt off. I mean, he played like a pro that game.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have thought he was going, first round after that game because, I mean, he couldn't miss. They wanted that game more than we did. Because if you watch the game, at the end of the game, I mean, we were still, as good as Louisville played. And I mean, I'm not going to say we played terrible, but we didn't play our best game. And I mean, obviously, give credit to Louisville. There was a reason why we didn't play our best game, but they just made all the plays. I mean, they like Cameron Murray.
Cameron Murray, yeah.
Like he was tough. Like he was a little crafty little guard. Maven played well that game. Tony Williams, they came in ready to play. They knew what time it was. They was like, hey, look, we're going in the rup. They beat us last year. We got to go get these dudes back. Well, meanwhile, with this thinking we beat, Louisville last year, we're at home. We'll beat them this year. And that wasn't the case. They came in and, they just outplayed us. They basically just really outplayed us. They kind of punked us a little bit, honestly, in the beginning of the game. I mean, throughout the game, like Alex Sanders was doing whatever he wanted. Nate Johnson was doing whatever he wanted. I mean, I give them credit. They played their butts, and they were ranked too at the time. I want to believe they were ranked. They were like top 20. And I give them credit, man. They came in there and they deserved to win that game. They were the better team that day.
So that sparked another win streak, and you guys actually won 16 of your last 18 going into the SEC tournament. So your all's last loss of the regular season was to Ole Miss. What did you guys figure out in that game? Because I mean, not to foreshadow, but I mean, this happened, 22 years ago. So if I'm giving you something that you don't already know, then maybe you need to come out from under a rock. But what happened in that game to say, hey, look, I'm not going to lose again? Because you all go on to win the national championship, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But, like, what woke you guys up, or what did you guys see in that game that kind of turned you guys around where we're like, hey, this is maybe the spot we need to work on the most?
Talking about Ole Miss?
Yeah.
Well, see, we still hadn't really bought into Coach Smith's, his philosophy.
So that far into the season, you guys were still having trouble buying in?
We still was, fighting each other. And, we had a meeting. Jeff Shepard was our captain. Cameron Mills, and usually our captains was our seniors, and Allen Edwards were our captains. And, they just called a meeting. And it was just like, look, it's either we're going to buy in or we not. Because we were basically beating teams, I want to believe, off just talent. We hadn't really locked into coaches, his philosophy, his system yet.
Yeah.
And he basically just said, look, I know we hate the overplay. We hate all, but he's our coach, and he's been coaching way longer than we've been playing. So we need to go out here and do what he's asking us to do. And, that's all it was, a players-only meeting. And that's after that meeting, I think we all just went to practice that next day and just said, hey, we're gonna work. We're not gonna BS this no more. We're gonna really work at this. Because I think guys were just, kind of lollygagging it.
Yeah. Just going through the motions because you all had so much talent on a team. And
Exactly.
So, I mean, this team was nicknamed the Comeback Cats, and the tournament was when this was shown the most, to be honest with you. I want you to think back to the Sweet 16. You guys were playing against Duke, Coach K. I think Steve Wojciechowski was on that team. Like, they had a lot of – it was just Duke. Everybody hates Duke that's not a Duke fan. Let's be honest about it. Like,
I know. I noticed that now. It's not just Kentucky.
It's not just Kentucky. It's pretty. They're like the Yankees, man. Like, you don't know anybody. It's like you either love the Yankees or you hate the Yankees. Right. You either love Duke or you hate Duke. There's no middle ground on Duke. It's just you hate them or you love them. That's just the way it is. What did you all or what were they doing so well at the beginning of the game to get you guys down as high as 18 points? And what did you all change to kind of turn it around and then end up winning the game and move on to the Elite Eight?
Well, I think we gave them too much, respect, because they were number one. You know, they had been number one the whole year. Um, and, you know, they came out on fire. You know what I mean? Like we were playing well too. But because, you know, it was Duke, it was like, and then there was a whole bunch about this whole 92 game. And, you know, it was a lot of hoopla around it. I think that is what kind of
I just thought about
fogged
that.
it up.
That was y'all's first meeting since that, wasn't it?
Yes, they
I
hadn't
didn't even
seen Duke.
think about that. Wow, yeah.
It was like 18 years later, we ran into Duke, or 16 or something like that.
Or no, at that point it would have been 6 years. It would have been 6 years later. Because you all,
Right,
yeah, 6 years, yeah,
right.
6, yeah.
Right, exactly. I don't know where I was at, but yeah, exactly. So Kentucky hadn't seen them since then, and you know, it was like it was so much about that game more so than the game we're gonna play, and it was almost carbon copy of, you know, how it played out as far as us meeting them in the Elite Eight, and then what team was going to go to the Final Four. Both teams being good at the time, and you know, they was just on fire. Like they made everything. They got to the loose balls. You know, they played good defense. They really like overplayed in the passing lanes. And I was like, I thought these guys denied the passing lanes. And, you know, they were tough. Like they were scrappy. And I was like, wow, that's probably one of the hardest games I played in. I mean, outside of Minnesota and Michigan State, like that team was a hard team to play against. And they just came out and they really punched us early. And, you know, we was a team of runs, so we never felt like we was out of it at any point. But man, down the stretch, it was like, you know, when they got up 20 again, it was like, man, I know I was thinking, I'm honest, like I was thinking like, hey, maybe this is not our year this year.
Yeah.
And coach took me out the game, but then when he put me back in, I was like, you know what? Hey, I'm just leaving it all out here and I'm just going to go as hard as I can and do whatever we can to win the game, because it was my birthday. Like I tell people, that was my birthday.
Oh,
like,
man.
I wasn't losing on my birthday. Yeah, it was my birthday that day. So I was like, man, I'm really going to lose on my birthday to go to the Final Four? No. And I just was like, hey, I'm going out blazing.
So as far as that being your toughest game, would you say that was also the happiest you've been outside of a championship after a win?
Oh, yeah. I mean, honestly, because I had won a national championship before, that Duke game, like it felt better than the national championship game to me. To
Oh,
me, winning
man.
that Duke game felt better than winning that national championship game.
Are you so you're talking about in 98?
In 98. That's
Okay.
how big that game was. Now, because I had won the championship before, I knew what the feeling was like to win the national. I didn't know what that feeling was like to come back 17, 18 down and win to go to the Final Four. I didn't know. That was a totally different feeling.
Yeah.
It was almost unreal. You know what I mean? Like we were like, I know after the game, I was like, what just happened? Like, what just happened?
So part of that game, I wanted you to give your feeling. Cameron Mill hits at 3, gives you your first lead with just over 2 minutes left. Like now, where you were thinking, well, there it goes, I'm losing on my birthday. Now you're like, we're back again. Like this is what we do. Like what were you feeling?
I was so on a cloud. I was on a cloud. Like it was like it was so much emotion going through me that I was like, you ever seen that movie, The Last Dragon? Like I felt like I had the glow. Like it was like that much tension. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, I was just like, man, this is crazy. And the energy, the crowd, it was just like unreal. Like the crowd was just, oh man, you could just hear our crowd just going crazy.
Yeah.
And I think I had came down, I want to believe I got fouled I think it was Wojo, and scored. And at that point, I was like, we're not losing.
Now you're like, yeah, you're not losing.
This is, and obviously after Cam hit the shot, like I shot the most craziest shot because I was in my zone. I was just throwing shots up, and that one missed, and Hishimu tipped it out to Cameron. I didn't even realize Hishimu tipped it out until you watched the tape. And when he shot it, I was like, it's good. I was like, it's good. When he released it, I said, it went to Cameron wide open at the top of the key. Now, Cameron hadn't been shooting that well up until then. And I was like, when he made it, I was like, oh, man, we're going to win this game. Ain't no way we losing this game. Yeah. The crowd was just, oh, man.
Where was that game played at? Do you remember?
It was in St. Petersburg, Florida. Yep, Tropicana Field. Yep,
wow.
Right over the bridge from Tampa. Yep.
Wow. So the Final Four game against Stanford was a great one as well. But I want to ask you about the end of OT. I don't know if you can remember this part.
No, I do.
How relieved were you that the guys still pulled out a victory despite you missing 2 free throws with 2.5 seconds left? And would you say that nerves attributed to that, or like what would you say? Like, were you just tired, or what would you say went into that?
I mean, I think, me missing the second one was kind of like a blessing because it wouldn't have gave them a out of bounds play to run, like a home run play or something.
That's true. Yeah.
Even though I was trying to make it, I made my the 2 before that.
Yeah.
But I missed that one. I missed those 2. But I mean, even though as well as Stanford played, like to come back after we came back and then, they were still trying to hang in there. I just felt like we wasn't going to lose that game. After beating Duke, I felt like there was nobody else that was going to beat us. And that game was tight and it was close. Like Stanford was good. It was a different team we had seen that year. They were big with Tim Young and Madsen down low. They had good guards with Arthur Lee. But I just felt like, with Jamal and Nazi down there, we were good matching up with them. And Jeff was in the zone. Jeff had caught fire that game. And he made like 3 big threes. And Scott made a big 3. And then, Sasha, I forget his last name, he made that 3 to kind of get the game close. But, I felt like once with that little bit of time left and we were up 1, I believe, it was pressure, but I was like, I had been there before that year, against Vanderbilt at home. So I was like, let me just make these. And I missed them. And there was a guy at the line. I remember he was like, yeah, we want to foul you. We're following you.
Oh, man.
Like, hey, I was like, so P, I'm happy you following me. I want to be the guy to send y'all home. And, I missed the free throws, but
you all won the game. So that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. It's survive in advance, baby.
So you guys go to the championship game, and you guys went into halftime trailing by 10 points. And I want to ask you a question. Did you know that season your all's record was 10-2 when you were trailing at the half?
No, not at the time, no. No, I didn't even know until I had a conversation with Coach Smith, probably when he came on the podcast. We didn't even pay attention to stuff like that.
So you literally just found that out not that long?
Allowed to read the papers.
Yeah.
At one point, we was told don't pay attention to ESPN, even though we did. I mean, but no, seriously.
So you literally just found out about that like not that long ago then, because you just started your podcast recently. So you just now found out that you guys were 10-2 and trailing at the half that season?
I know. Yep. I just learned that. I didn't know that during that time. I knew we were coming back winning.
Yeah.
But I only thought it was happening in the tournament. I didn't realize it happened. It had happened some in the regular season as well.
I'm sure because you're in a different mindset at that point. It's a new season once you get into the NCAA tournament. You kind of like block out what happened earlier in the season at that point because you're like, all right, we got a new goal. It's to win a title.
Well, when I got to Kentucky, stats wasn't, your own personal stats, and then
Yeah.
that was like irrelevant. Like you didn't, you was told, no, we don't care about our own stats. So from that point on, my freshman year, they were in the Herald leader anyway, so we got to see them in their leader. They had them in there, but outside of that, I really didn't pay attention to a lot of.
What would you say was what it was about that team that made you all play so well from behind?
I think because we were so conditioned, mentally, we were mentally tough. We gained a mental tough attitude. We were having 6 a.m. practices from like the time the tournament started all the way to the end. So we practiced. We got up 6 a.m. every morning, practiced, then we came back in the after. So we go on tour days that whole NCAA tournament, which I feel like definitely mentally prepared us, and it physically helped us, when those teams got tired toward the end of the game. It was almost like we got a second win.
Yeah.
Like I almost felt like whenever I went to the bench in the midst of a game, and when I came back in, I was just like super fresh, like the beginning of the game, honestly. And I think that's why we were able to come back, on those teams like we did, because of our conditioning. We were so well conditioned and mentally tough.
So you guys won the title that year. Y'all beat Utah. And I want to ask a question because I feel like it's very unfair that a lot of people say this. And I want it to come from a player that played for both of them. What do you think about when people say that Tubby Smith didn't really win that title? He won it with Brick Skies, and he just had a loaded roster.
Well, I just feel like,
because I feel like the stories you're telling me, like it seems unfair with the adjustments that he would make mid-game, that they really don't give the Tubby Smith as a person and as a coach credit for what he could really do.
Yeah, no, I felt that way, and I just felt like, he definitely deserved the credit for coming in, experienced guys, experienced team, already conditioned to play one way, and he got us to buy into his philosophy, his system. He got through to one of us that got through to all of us, and then we all performed the way he wanted us to perform. And I think his job was harder, coming in trying to coach us after Coach Pitino left.
Yeah.
Because, you had some guys who were mad that Coach Pitino left. They weren't happy that, he left. But, definitely got to give Coach credit for coming in and doing it his way, because he did really do it his way. Even though he hadn't recruited any of us, he still came in and he got respect from us. Like he gained that respect, like I want to say fairly quick. And then you still have to teach, you still have to coach the players.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you still gotta come up with a strategy, a game plan, and execute that game plan and that strategy. And fortunate for him, I think where he gained that is where he had a lot of experienced players from Pitino's team that helped him. But you still have to coach. You still have to direct and lead your team. And I just feel like, he definitely deserved more credit for winning that national championship with us.
Because to be honest with you, if you think about it, a lot of times the best team doesn't win the title in college basketball because it's, like you said, it's survive and advance. I mean, you can think of plenty of times right offhand where maybe the best team throughout the whole season doesn't win the title because it's literally one loss and you go home.
Mm-hmm.
So to take a team, he took a team that was experienced, but you all still came back in a lot of games, and you all came back in games against that Duke team and won the title. And I've always felt like that was very unfair of people to say.
Well, I mean, yeah, in a sense, yeah, it was. I mean, I totally agree with you on that. It was unfair. I mean, because our schedule definitely was different, from that year before, and we saw different teams.
Yeah.
We never saw Stanford with Coach Pitino. I never saw Duke with Coach Pitino. So there was a lot of teams that we had to face, and a lot of good players that we had to face that coach had to come up with a defensive strategy to stop them with. And, to his defense, we didn't play the same defensively. We really pressed and trapped with Coach Smith. We were more of a changing defensive team. Like we would go from a zone to a half court press to a full court press. To whatever was working best for us, that's what we did. If our half court zone was working, or it was like that 3/4 court zone was working, we'd be in that the whole game. If
That
our
almost sounds
press
like
was
Pitino when he was in Louisville. Like that
yeah.
almost sounds identical to what Coach Pitino did when he was here in Louisville.
And I just think that he definitely deserves a lot of credit for coming in and doing what he did with our team. Because winning that national championship was like, wow, we really did this.
Yeah.
And for him in his first year, yeah, it may have put a little bit of pressure on him moving forward, but it definitely was something that he had a great staff. I mean, George Felton was a great coach. He had been the head coach, South Carolina, I believe. Sean Finney was with him at Tulsa. Mike Sutton was a good coach. He ended up being a head coach at Tennessee State. I mean, he had a really good staff as well.
Yeah. So you come back your senior year. Did you ever think about leaving and going to the NBA after your junior year, or was it coming back for my senior year?
I did. I weighed out a couple measurements, and I just felt like I was enjoying school a lot. I really was having fun. I wanted to come back and conquer my degree. And also, I was someone who was big on, like, I wanted to be in the record books. I wanted to be, one of those guys who was known for staying on 4 years, made some records. And I also, one of my goals was to be an All-American. I wanted that first team or SEC. Like, those things, like, mattered to me. As much as I wanted to play in the NBA, I felt like I still, needed more time. And I made that decision, and I don't regret it. I enjoyed all my 4 years at Kentucky. Outside of losing to Michigan State in that Elite Eight, I really enjoyed my career there. And who knows what would have happened in the 1998 draft. They were locking out that year. That was just a little discouraging. I think they didn't start back up to January. And yeah, so I wanted that Final Four.
So did that also weigh into it as well? Because I'm sure if it's a lockout, they weren't really doing like pre-draft camps and stuff either, were they?
They still did it because they didn't lock out until probably maybe right before August. When they start signing people and stuff like that. So they went through with the draft and all of that, and then they locked out. But yeah, I waited out. It was like somewhere in the first round, maybe second. That second was a turnoff. So I was like, all right, well, let me go try to prove myself some more. Then.
So your senior year, you guys lost a few more games than what you guys had in others. But how confident, like once it came March time, like how confident were you all that you all would win again? Like, is it just like, I've been in the title game 3 years in a row. Like, that's just what we do at Kentucky. Like, is that kind of like their mindset going into it?
Yeah, I mean, we were confident. I mean, we had 3 seniors who had played in the Final Four and won a national championship. We had other guys who's played in the championship, like McGlure. Magloire, I believe, was the other guy who played in that championship with us. And, we definitely was confident. I mean, we beat Miami of Ohio, Wally and those guys. Kansas was the hurdle. I felt like we got past them in the Sweet 16. And, we were right there. I think Michigan State just came out and we hadn't seen a team like Michigan State. The fast break was it was a faster break than I had ever saw.
So
The way
that was what Mateen Cleaves and Morris Peterson. Is that that was?
Yep. Um, yep, Mo Pete and Charlie Bell. Charlie Bell was on that team as well. Guy by the name of Antonio not Granger, not Antonio Granger, but it was a Granger. All I know is he was like Scott Padgett. Like if you left him, he was big. If you left him on the perimeter, he was making that shot.
Yeah.
And he was killing us. And I was yelling at Scott, like, he's like, you need to get on him. But
guard yourself. Like, what are you doing?
And they came out, we jumped on them right away. But, they came back and shut the lead out and got momentum going in the second half. And they never really looked back after that. It was a tough game for us, tough game for me. It was my last game.
Yeah. That's why I want to ask you. So you lose that game out. What was that feeling like? Your 4 years at Kentucky are over. You go from being a McDonald's All-American, coming from the Boston area, playing for Coach Pitino, to playing for Coach Smith, playing in 3 straight title games, and you lose in the Elite Eight, which to a lot of people, it's like, man, we made it to the Elite Eight, but like programs like Kentucky and Louisville, I think it was Coach Pitino or Coach Callett said, like, they don't hang banners for Elite Eights. Like, they just don't do that. But you still had to feel like after that last game, like, I've had a pretty accomplished career here, but your time's over. Like, what was your feelings after that game?
Oh, it was tough. It hits you after the game. Like, wow, this is it. You know what I mean? Like, this is our last game, my last game in a Kentucky basketball uniform. And, playing under, Coach Smith. And it was just like, wow, it was like, I couldn't believe it was over. You know what I mean? But, as time went by and that game kind of, started to fade away, I realized like, wow, it ain't so bad after all. Like, okay, we lost in the Elite Eight. Obviously, that's not something that is acceptable in the Bluegrass State. But,
yeah,
any other team would have loved it. Miami of Ohio would have loved to get into the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
So and then I look back, 3 Final Fours, 1 Elite Eight, 2 national championships. I can't, there's no way I could ever be disappointed with the career I had. As bad as I wanted to make it back to that Final Four, I definitely am proud of, the career that I endured at UK.
So that after your senior season was over, I guess you went through, the pre-draft camps, and then you went undrafted, right?
I went undrafted, yep.
But you signed a little contract with Boston with Coach Pitino, correct?
I did, yep. I made that training camp.
And what was that like in Boston? I mean, how long did you play? Like, or did you like what? Explain your time in Boston, what that was like.
Well, first of all, I'm gonna get this out there. They were supposed to take me at the 55th pick.
Well, that's.
But I got the phone call, and this guy Chris Clack was still on the board, and they took Chris instead of me. And I don't know Chris pretty well. Chris is a good guy, and he was a good player. But I was hurt. That hurt. And but it motivated me. And I said, you know what? They were inviting me into their training camp for a summer league team, and I think there was a couple other teams wanted me to go, but I felt comfortable with Coach. I already knew that it would be love up there. It's home in Boston.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to play for the Celtics. At some point. And when I went up there, hey, it was like, okay, what do I got to do to make the team?
So how long did you stay with the team? Did you just played in training camp?
So I did so I had to prove myself summer league, and so summer league I had a great summer league. Summer league team went 14-0. We went out to LA. We won every game out there. We came back to Boston, and we won everything there. And you know, that last day, coach comes up to me. He's like, we're gonna sign you to a partial deal. You got to prove yourself. More than likely, we're looking to keep you, but you still have to prove yourself. So, they signed me. I was like the best day of my life.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't. They didn't sign me right away. What had to happen was Ron Mercer was at the end of his contract, and I think they were trying to decide what they was going to do with Ron Mercer. And also, I think that was the biggest one. So whatever they had, they signed Adrian Griffin, who was on the summer league team as well. And whatever was going to happen with Ron was going to affect what was going to happen with me and them. So when that trade went through with Ron Mercer and Popeye Jones, I think
Chicago, right?
Washington. What's that?
Did he go
to Denver. So Eric Washington, who played at Alabama in the SEC back then, and then you had Danny Fortson, who was with the Denver Nuggets at the time, and basically Popeye Jones was with Boston. So Popeye and Ron Mercer went to Denver. Danny Fortson, Eric Washington, and Eric Williams to Boston. And when that happened, that's when it opened up a little bit for them to give me some money, I guess. So
you played part of the season, and then the rest of the season you played with the Cincinnati stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Before signing with the Harlem Globetrotters. So I got to ask about the Harlem Globetrotters. How did the Harlem Globetrotters come about with you, like the gig with that? And did you enjoy playing with them, or was it like, I'm just doing this because it's giving me money and it's biding me time to get to the place I want to play?
You know what? In the beginning, I looked at the money. I'm not gonna lie, I did. And but also, Globetrotters is something that was very huge. Like when I was growing up, I was really, really interested in Globetrotters. And then when I learned about the history, I was like, you know what? I want to give this a try, because what they were doing at the time, they were creating a competitive team within their team that does the show. So you had your show part of the team, and then you had the competitive team. And the competitive team during those times, they were playing that NABC All-Star team. You know what I'm saying? I want to say the weekend of the Final Four, instead of it being that All-Star game that the college seniors play, it was the Globetrotters playing a put-together college senior team. And so that's how I got recruited, to play with the Globetrotters, because that's what they sold me on. And then in the beginning of the season as well, we would play, we played Michigan State, Zach Randolph, Jason Richardson. Then we played Purdue. We played some D2 school, Metro, I forget what it was called, in Denver. So we played some college teams too. We had a college preseason tour, and then some time off, and then we did the regular Globetrotter tour, where they toured the whole country. And there was 3 different teams. It was the team that covered the East, the West, and then the Midwest. And so, it was very, I enjoyed the Globetrotters a lot. I wish, it was just, the toughest part about it was just coming from Kentucky and then trying to play with the Globetrotters. That was the toughest part, because Kentucky was just so much more competitive.
Yeah.
I mean, Globetrotters were competitors. Don't get me wrong. There was some competitors on that team, and there was some guys that were actually made up of guys who played D1 ball. But it just wasn't. After about the 10th show, it was like, kind of like, what am I doing? That was my second year out of college.
Yeah.
So it was tough to adjust to it, but it was definitely one of the best professional teams that I had played on after my career.
So you traveled all over the world. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of these places. So you played in Italy, played in Australia, New Zealand. What was your favorite country, and what was your least favorite country to play in?
Australia was awesome. I mean, Australia I had a lot of fun in Australia. The people were nice. I mean, it was the weather was nice. I mean, it was like, I was just like, man, how is life like this over there? They say no worries. That's the first time I heard the term no worries. And there was really no worries over there. I mean, everybody was down to earth, and it was just so easy going,
They say no worries, but they had the most poisonous snakes in the world over there. Yeah, there's no worries over there.
Right, exactly. And New Zealand was nice too. I mean, but I want to believe that Turkey was not. I was in Turkey for about 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and I didn't like Turkey at all. It was different. That was not the right place to go for my first time overseas. But for the most part, I loved it. Italy was nice. The food was great. It was an experience. It was a beautiful country. But Australia by far.
So since Australia and New Zealand, they both speak English, obviously it's like, but was their food a lot like ours, or was it culturally a lot different as far as their food goes as well? And then, so what I'm guessing, since that's the only one you mentioned, was Italy the favorite food destination of the countries you played in?
No, Australia had great food over there. There was like a lot of seafood because of the ocean water and all that. I mean, they had some great food over there. New Zealand as well. I just thought that the pizza in Italy and like the steak over there, I was like, wow, just the pasta obviously was blown away. But Australia has some good food, but by far, I mean, Italy definitely had the best food. They had the best food.
So after your playing career, you spoke earlier about you went back and coached with Coach Cal. You went to go finish your undergraduate degree, and you joined Coach Cal on the staff. What role did you have on his staff there?
I was undergrad assistant, and so I practiced with the team. I traveled with the team. I took shot chart stats on the bench. And whatever, Cal was pretty open, with his coaches. Whatever information you had or, wanted to share, he was all in, with receiving that information. But that was mainly, my role. I practiced every day. The days I didn't have to practice, I was happy, but I enjoyed it. I felt
so you at that point, that's John Wall and Eric Bledsoe, right?
No, that's Brandon Knight, Deron Lamb, Terrence Jones.
I mean, still tough guards to play against.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, he kept it half court most of the time, so I definitely thank him for that.
So what point in your life or during your basketball career did you say, hey, coaching is what I want to get into? Or did you know even back when you were still in college that after your playing career, like that's what you ultimately wanted to do?
Well, after that year, when that opportunity came, I didn't know, that I wanted to do that. And but I was taking a class, in my leadership development class, finishing my degree, that shadowed jobs that I may have been interested in. And so I did some shadowing of the jobs and like interviewed some people about what they do, like as far as their position as an assistant coach. And it was interesting to me. And I had coached a little bit my high school team in 2008. And I saw the effect that I had on the players there. I really I made a difference. But after the season, when we went to the Final Four with Cal in 2011, I went to Cal and I told him, I said, I never thought that I would be this much interested in coaching. I would like to, try to pursue it. What do I need to do? And basically he was telling me, it's just one of those waiting games. You just got to kind of wait it out. Positions open up and then, things happen. But unfortunately, I couldn't wait around too long. Nothing was really opening at Kentucky. So I went back home and, did some grassroots coaching. And then that's when I was really on the hunt to try to, get back in the game.
So how did you get in contact with Coach Pitino about coming and coaching at Louisville? Because that's where you say you went back home and coached a little bit there. And then how long did you coach at home before you came to Louisville?
So I was at home for about a year and a half, working a partner with one of my buddies I grew up with playing ball. He actually played at Miami of Ohio with Wally, a guy by the name of Anthony Taylor. He started a program. We talked about doing a program a long time ago, back in like 2002. He started it probably like around 2005 or something, 2006, kept it going. So when I came home, I noticed he was doing that, and I started doing that with him a lot more. But, some things happen, it could get a little challenging on that level, with the people involved. Everybody was trying to do it. And, obviously, I just felt at some point, I need to extend my experience, to another level. And so I reached out to Coach Pitino. I called him up and, he reached back, asked me if I wanted to come on and be a grad assistant. And, I took the opportunity. And, there I was, like, I called Coach on Monday. He wanted me to be there on Friday. So I was like, that's Coach. That was still the same.
So, was it when he was like, obviously it wasn't that weird because you called him knowing he was coaching at Louisville, but was it weird when you started putting Louisville stuff on?
It did. It was a little weird. But you know what? It was the weird part was I didn't feel like I was at Louisville. I honestly didn't, because it was Coach Pitino. You know what I mean? Like, I know Coach at Kentucky. So It's like the same way he was at Kentucky, it was the similar way at Louisville. The same, you know what I mean? He was the same.
Yeah.
How it was set up, the training table, everything we did at Kentucky, it was the same.
Thing.
I just felt like, it was the same. It really didn't. It didn't dawn on me until I actually went outside the building. You know what I mean? Or I went into a restaurant and I had on like a Louisville shirt. And then somebody might be like, really?
Yeah.
Kentucky fan was like, oh my gosh, I can't watch this. And I was like, hey, look, it is what it is. This is my job.
Yeah.
Louisville's actually great program.
Yeah. So Coach Pitino, a few years after you went back there, we already talked about it before. I don't want to talk about it. I'm a Louisville fan. I don't want to talk about all the stuff that happened there. But Coach Pitino gets let go. And they hired David Padgett. How did that go about, like, the retention part of that, like, to keep you on the staff with Coach Padgett?
Well, I think, once David got in position with the job, it was more so like keep everybody where they were, keep everybody. He got the position. I think David's, his MO was to, at least secure everybody, make everybody feel like their position is secured until at least the end of the season. I was like director of player development at the time. So he shifted my position to assistant director of operations. I wanted to be an assistant coach, but, obviously, unfortunately that didn't happen. I don't know where that went wrong or how the decision
So
came about.
you brought that up to him?
Yeah, so I actually did go, once I found out that he was going to get the job, I went to him, because I just felt like, I had known the guys, I had been there since Q was a freshman. I watched, Donovan on his visit. Even though Donovan had left, I believe that year. And I had, watched, I've been there since Ray was a freshman. I had a good relationship with the guys who had been there. Not that core group like Wara and those guys that came in. Obviously, I didn't know them, but I was there for their recruitment, all of them. Yeah. And so I had a relationship with the guys. So I felt like, I was someone who would be credible, to get their attention as a coach.
I almost think of it kind of like what you spoke on with Coach Tubby Smith, where it's like they already know you. So when you say something to them, it's going to stick a lot more than someone coming from the outside. Like, I mean, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, obviously, but someone like a Greg Paulus that it's never even been a part of the program or, didn't play for Coach Pitino and know the system already and know what was already about, to kind of say, like, look, I know what you're going through because I played in this. And I mean, that's tough to hear because it's like and you never know. I mean, David was in a tough position because of there's so many things already going on, and now his mentor and Coach Pitino is gone as well. I mean, like you said, he was trying to secure positions, but still, like it feels like it would have made that transition a lot easier if there was a person like you said that was already experienced with all the players.
Yeah, I mean, I know Greg. Greg is a great guy, and he came in and definitely he did a great job. He really helped David a lot, you know what I'm saying, in terms of, drills. He was vocal, like very, very animated, very emotional. Like you could see his passion for it. And I could see why David had hired him at that time. He had experience coaching under that Mata. A very smart guy.
I don't want it to seem like I was just calling him out. I was just using him for that example.
No. I know exactly what you're saying, but I definitely, that's the way I felt. What you were saying,
yeah,
I definitely felt that way, and it didn't work out for me. That was my goal. That was one of my goals. Being at Louisville is to, if not at Louisville, after I left Louisville, become an assistant coach somewhere, but it didn't happen. And I feel bad for those guys that year, because those guys came in, especially the freshmen, wanting to play for Rick Pitino, and that happened. And I wish I could have had more say so as far as the position of being in, to give those guys some more advice to where they would have listened deeply. Not that they wouldn't have listened at all, but they would have listened a little more closer because my title.
Absolutely. So when after that season was over, you had the heartbreaking Virginia game, and then you had the NIT, which it was weird, man. The NIT almost felt like a breath of fresh air because I know I see you shaking your head, but like the way the fan base showed out for those players because of the things that they had gone through.
Absolutely.
I was at every home game that we had. It was a different Louisville fan base almost.
It was amazing. It was amazing. I was like weirded out. Like, where'd these people come from? You know what I mean? Like, our regular season games, obviously, they were like, it was dead. You know what I mean? But then the NIT, I was like, where are we?
I'll
know.
be honest with you, man. I love the Yum Center and the fact that it's the nicest arena in all of college basketball, but it leaves a lot to be desired for a fan like myself who enjoys the environment and doesn't enjoy the party scene of an arena.
Mm,
I feel like it's more – that's the biggest gripe that I have with the Yum Center. I love it. I think it's so nice, and I'm sure
beautiful.
players and coaches love coaching in it, but it's like, to me, like you look at places like Cameron Indoor, you look like the Dean Dome, and you just see – I don't feel like the student section is embraced enough. It's more of a commercial arena than it is a team arena, and that's the only problem that I have with it.
No, I agree. It's like an NBA arena.
Yeah.
It really is. It's
And,
like going. It's like an NBA. It's definitely better, but it's just like the norm in there is like an NBA game.
yeah.
Because
And I
I've went
think
to some games at the like outside of being on the Louisville staff, and I was like, man, it feels like and I would be at the NC State Louisville game, and I was like, because I still keep in touch with Coach Keith.
Yeah.
So I went to a game and I went in, I'm like, man, it doesn't feel like a college game. It feels like an NBA game, like, because of the arena.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like I said, I love the Yum Center and
But
everything.
it
And
is
there's those.
nice, though.
Oh my God, yeah, I remember the first year it opened. And it also, I will say this, it gave people that normally couldn't get tickets a chance to get tickets because they were so reasonably priced. And I don't know if you guys knew that as a coaching staff, but they were very, very cheap tickets. And it gave people like I didn't grow up with a lot. So like my first game that I went to as a Louisville fan was not I'll be 32 in 2 weeks, and my first game wasn't until 1999. It's because we didn't have money to go. So like I was 11 years old the first time I ever got to see my favorite team play in person.
Wow.
So it sucks seeing your team in the NIT, but it gave the real fans that don't necessarily get to go to a game because the high ticket prices a chance to go. And those people didn't care if Louisville was playing in the Dirt Bowl, like they're going to come and watch and cheer them on. And that was what I felt like. As a fan going to those games, that's what it felt like. It felt like, not that the regular people that go aren't real fans, but like this feels like the real people that are Louisville fans. That yeah, that's what it felt like.
That's how the team felt. The team felt that. They definitely felt like, wow, like where did these people come from? Like, well, these people need to be at the game every game,
Yeah. So, did you get offered a spot on the current staff at all, or did you talk to Coach Mack about being retained or anything?
I did not. I was just told, probably not going to keep no one around. So I just packed up and got out of there,
Yeah. So what have you done since leaving U of L?
I've still been on the hunt, trying to find a college staff to join. But didn't work out last couple years, and so I just decided to coach high school ball. I was coaching at Seneca High School last year on McQuell Coleman's staff with the boys. We lost to Male in the regionals. It's a tough game. Male was a tough team.
Yeah, Male was real tough. I saw them play a couple times last year. They were real tough.
Yeah, it was tough. We almost had them in the at the first meeting at home. We should have beat them, but they prevailed. They had some good guys on their team, good coach too. But then this year, I decided to take on athletes and varsity girls. I got the call from the AD, and I was like, you know what? Someone gives you an opportunity. Sometimes you got to go ahead on and see what it's about. I wanted to be a head coach. That was my goal. Assistant coach college, but at some point be a head coach. And, I just wanted that head coaching experience. And, I'm going to just take this and run with it and learn as much as I can. And, I just love coaching. I love giving. It's my way of giving back and teaching life lessons, also, other than just lessons on the court.
Absolutely. So the next part, It's the fun part. You can loosen up a little bit. It's a rapid fire questions. So I got some fun questions for us, but it's the Mike and Cheese rapid fire question. So you not heard of Mike and Cheese? Mike and Cheese is one of my best friends. He runs a mac and cheese food truck. It's the best mac and cheese you'll ever have. I promise you. He does free delivery. He does free delivery to Louisville and Southern Indiana. It's a $15 minimum.
Wow.
You call him at 502-548-6845. And here's the thing, man. You don't know this, but the people that listen to, make sure you try the Beef's Beef Pizza Mac. I got my own mac and cheese with this mac and cheese company.
It sounds good.
Actually, if you're my friend on Facebook, I posted a picture of it the other day on Facebook. That was that mac. That was that mac and cheese. Was that pizza mac and cheese? So order it. It's $15 minimum. The tray start at $10, but it's a great thing. So rapid fire questions. You're familiar with those? I give you the question. You just say the first thing comes to your mind.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite pregame meal as a player?
Steak.
Just steak. That's it. Just steak, or just baked potato or salad? Or
actually, you know what? It was pasta. I ate real light, just pasta, like spaghetti noodles, whatever noodles. I ate pasta because I felt like pasta wasn't gonna stick.
Yeah. All right. Pizza or tacos?
Pizza.
All right. Wings or burgers?
Wings.
All right. There's an add off of that one. Flats or drums?
Drums.
Okay. All right. This is a big one for me right here. I'm gonna go ahead and let you know. I guess it's gonna determine whether we could be friends or not. French fries or tater tots?
I'm a tater tots guy, man.
I'm so disappointed right now, man. I'm so
disappointed. But I like fries.
Hear me out, man. So if you have a French fry and it's like, I'm not saying that it's not cooked all the way, but it's soft, it's not bad. But if you have a soft tater tot, it's terrible.
Oh my gosh! Don't even.
You see what I'm saying? You have to have a consistently cooked tater tot for it to be good. You can have fries that are soft or crunchy, and they're good. That's my argument.
Right. You're absolutely right.
All
I don't know, man. Something about them tater tots at Sonic with the cheese on it, bro.
Favorite movie?
Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon. I actually have two. That was a tough one. Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon was my favorite movie, but I love Gladiator.
Okay.
I love Gladiator.
Favorite musical artist all time and currently?
Man, Tupac Shakur is my favorite. He's my favorite guy of all time. Mary J. Blige, she's always gonna be my girl all the time. Mary J. Blige, man.
All right, favorite album all time and then currently?
Favorite album of all time is Illmatic. Currently is that Victory Lap.
Oh, yeah.
Victory Lap.
Nipsey?
Yeah, Nipsey Hussle, Victory Lap.
All right, here's a good question for you. What's your biggest fear?
Biggest fear is failure. Just failing at anything. It don't even matter what it is. I just hate to fail. I hate that.
Well, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Cookies and cream.
Favorite restaurant in the city of Louisville?
Man, that was a tough one, but I like Ruby's though. I like Jeff Ruby's.
All right, what's an off the beaten path one that people don't know about in your opinion that you think is kind of slept on in Louisville?
A who?
Like what's a slept on restaurant in Louisville that you think that people don't really know about? Like if someone's coming in town and they're like, hey man, tell me a spot that local people go to. Because I mean, I know where I would send them, but I want to see what you would say. If they're like, hey, send me to a place that local people go to, but not necessarily out of town people.
You know what? There's a place in Norton Commons called Karam's. Like I like eating at Karam's. There's a few spots, but Karam's has, that grill right there, and I mean,
I've never even heard of that place. Sounds like I need to drive out there and try it.
Yeah, they got good wings. I usually go there for the wings, but yeah, I would definitely say stop by Karam's and get you a cooked meal.
See, some people ask me, where I send them? I don't know if you've ever had it, Hammerheads.
I never heard of Hammerheads. Where's that?
Hammerheads is on Swan Street. It's down off of Broadway.
Okay.
It's down in the I don't really know what that neighborhood's really called, but it's a really small place. It doesn't open until 5:00, and it's not even open on Mondays. So like you have to get there because it's really small. You have to get there early. But I promise you, man, they got a pork belly sandwich, dude. Oh my god! And we're talking about French fries. They got like 4 or 5 different types of French fries that are just phenomenal. And look, here's the thing, man. They don't sponsor me, so like I'm not just plugging them. If they want to sponsor me, I'd be more than happy to have Hammerhead sponsor me.
Right.
Because that means I'll be able to get free food from them. But yeah, Hammerheads is, in my opinion, it's the best restaurant in the city of Louisville. I love Hammerheads.
Nice.
And it's so good.
Nice.
All right, favorite basketball and favorite football player ever.
Favorite basketball player was Isaiah Thomas. Favorite football player was Tony Dorsett, Dallas Cowboys.
All right, what about your favorite? Just it could be either one of those two guys. Or who's your just favorite athlete of all time?
Oh, it's Michael Jordan. Favorite athlete of all time, Michael Jordan. Allen was in there, but Michael Jordan is the one that sticks out.
All right, this is a 3-part question. Who's the best player you ever played in high school, college, and professionally?
Best player I played against in high school was Stephon Marbury. He was best player in high school.
Lincoln, right? Isn't that where he played?
Lincoln, yup. But he was with the Gauchos. I ran into him in AAU maybe 2 or 3 times. And then in college, it was Steve Francis. Steve Francis was...
Man, people forget about that dude.
He was tough. And then you said in the pros? In the pros, it was, I want to say Rod Strickland.
Rod Strickland, yeah, that's a man.
To play strict.
That dude was tougher for a while, man.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and he's a big guard. Like he was big.
All right, so I want you to after every time I have somebody on and they have something that they do, I always tell them to plug it. So plug anything you want to plug, your podcast, anything like that. Where can they find it? What's it called? Everything like that.
Yeah, so make sure you subscribe to the Burnin Turner Show. It's part of the Field of 68 Media Group. You can go on applepodcast.com. You can find it on Spotify. You can also go on Bluegrass Sports Nation, and you can check it out there as well. But definitely subscribe to that, lock into that. Some great stories on there. I've interviewed Coach John Calipari, Coach Tubby Smith, Tony Delk. I just recently interviewed Jeff Shepard. Some great stories to listen to. Some great ones about Coach Rick Pitino leaving guys if they wasn't early for the bus. It would definitely be worth your while to listen to some of the stories on there.
I was listening to the Tony Delk one the other day whenever I saw you had him on there, and I haven't finished it yet, but he was when he talked about how his mom made him call the coaches whenever he said he was coming to Kentucky, and he said his mom made him call Nolan Richardson, and I was like, oh my gosh,
that was crazy.
Yeah, because he said she made him call all those coaches, and he was like, that was worse than any, like that was the hardest part of anything. He said that was harder than making a decision, was telling him that I wasn't coming.
That was strong, man, because there ain't no way I did that. I didn't do that. I mean, that had to be tough. Now to take the easy way out, go on Twitter and say, thank everybody for recruiting me, but I'm losing.
That's something I want to ask too, because I'm glad you brought that up. And this is off the script or whatever, but how do you think you would have played in the social media era? Like, do you think that some of these kids do you think kids nowadays are more coddled because of stuff like that? Or do you think it's even tougher because now it's like, let's take, for example, the kid last night in Texas that tackled the referee. Now anything you do is going to – I don't know if – judging by your face, you didn't see that.
What?
Yeah, there was a football player that got ejected for unsportsmanlike conduct, and he ran from the sideline, and he's got arrested and everything. But, like, you would think about something like that happening when you were younger. Like, that's not going to be seen on TV. And like, do you think that it's tougher now, or do you think it's in some ways it's easier because it's easier to be seen, in some ways it's tougher because things can
Yeah,
be
it's kind of like a gift and a curse, you know, if you ask me. Like, I mean, because, you know, if you're doing well, you know, like it's great, you know what I'm saying? But as soon as something bad happens,
yeah
it's the worst thing ever, you know what I mean? Like, and one thing, you know, Coach Pitino did, which I thought was a smart idea. I mean, he didn't allow his players to have Twitter. I mean, he just didn't allow because, you know, he was like, that thing, you put something on there negative, and the next thing you know, it
How
goes
much
viral.
backlash did that come with from the players?
Huh?
How much backlash did that come with from the players? Like, was that tough from some of the players to not have Twitter?
Oh, absolutely. They still was tweeting, you know, they still were finding a way.
Yeah.
And, you know, we be like, look at this idiot tweeting, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So it was like, but no, I mean, yeah, it could help you, but it could definitely hurt you as well. And I just feel like it's unfortunate for the the athletes this year. I mean, the athletes these days that they're not using it to the right advantages. You know what I'm saying? I just think
Yeah.
that they just have to be more smart about using it. Like if you're gonna use it, just use it to promote yourself. You know what I mean? Like don't be going on there just doing little random stupid things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's gonna come back to hurt you at some point if you're not smart about it. And then, you know, you got people who just like to sit around and video record people. You know, so now as a player, you know, as a Kentucky player, that has to be extremely hard because you're under that radar. Somebody's going to be in your face, and now you can't, you somewhere where you're not supposed to be. Your coach definitely now.
Yeah. You're playing football. You're playing football on the beach in Maui, and your coach.
Exactly.
Y'all couldn't have done that back then if there was Twitter and all that stuff. That'd have been all over Coach Smith's phone.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, but I do wish we had YouTube though or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can live with that, you know. Just get my, you know, give me a couple high school games on that YouTube, you know.
Yeah. For sure.
Oh man, but hey, more power to them. You know, I mean, they just got to be smart about how they use that stuff.
Yeah.
That's just how I look at it. You can easily get hacked nowadays, and then you know people breaking into your account, and then you got people video recording you, and it's just so much of a risk, you know.
For
So
sure.
much of a risk.
Well, Wayne, man, we went late. Most people are not going to know this whenever they see this, but we recorded this pretty late. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
all
11
good.
it's 11 o'clock, man, and I
I hope
appreciate you so much, man.
I
Taking
owed
the
you,
time
man.
out.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
And
Appreciate you reaching out.
and like I said, man, like if there's anything that I can help you with your podcast, I mean, I'll help you any way that I can for sure.
I appreciate it.
I'd
Hey, you
love
know
to.
what? Let me ask you a question because I hadn't really, you know, and I need to ask someone who's this before we go. Like, so how does it? I know subscribers are huge. I know that's big. You know, people subscribing, people tuning in, but like you said, the sponsor situation, like that's just now when that comes into play, it sounds like money.
All right, so I'll give you the two examples of the type of sponsors I have. So that Mike and Cheese, if you see right here as a ribbon for a kid that passed away, that
Wow.
guy that does Mike and Cheese is basically my younger brother. He's my younger brother's best friend. They've literally been best friends their entire life. And I offered something to him because at the end of the day, I love mac and cheese, and I would love to have my name on something like that.
Right.
And he wanted to sponsor, but it just wasn't the right time for either one of us. So I reached out to him and said, why don't we just make me my own mac and cheese, name it after me. That way my name gets out to your people, and then your name gets out to mine. That's one way that I've done it. But my main sponsor or I won't say my main sponsor because I have two other sponsors. One of them right here, he gave me a shirt. It's Delium's one of my good friends. Every sponsor that I have, I was friends with him before I even started the podcast. But the first sponsor I ever had is my friend Crystal. She's a mortgage broker. And for her, she already listened to my podcast, and for her, it's a non-risk because if she gets one thing from my podcast, it pays for the entire thing already.
Oh, wow.
And her work reimburses her for it. So it's like a win-win for that. So at the beginning, because to be honest with you, I'm still a baby in the podcast market if you really think about it. I've only been around last month, the 17th of November was my third year doing it. So I'm still a baby in this, and I'm still learning things every day when it comes, especially with that type of stuff. So that
3 years though, man, that's strong.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. Like I feel like I'm starting like the end of the second year, man, and going into the third. Like I feel like this is when I'm starting to pick up momentum. You know, I'm getting guys like you that I had a Sports Center anchor on a couple months ago.
Oh wow.
You spoke of Marcus Maben. Marcus Maben has become a pretty good contact with me. He's going to be coming on soon. I had Taekwon Dean on. You know, I've had some guys on, Coach Crum and Coach Hall. Like that stuff is thinking back as a kid, man, because I've become good friends with Larry O'Bannon now because of this podcast. Like we'll text every once in a while. And it's like I'm thinking as, you know, the kid that I'm talking about goes to his first game in 1999. And now, like, I'm talking with Marcus Maben, and he's coming on my podcast to do an interview with me. Or I'm talking to Wayne Turner, a guy that I used to watch come back against Duke. Like, I never pictured anything like this would ever happen to me. And it just makes me hungry because it's like, man, if I can get here, then there's no reason that I can't get to a level to where I'm talking to some LeBron James is on my TV right now, to where I can't talk to somebody like LeBron James.
Right.
Because the only, like you said, it was a motivating type thing with basketball. That's the same way it is with me now. Now it's like, okay, someone tells me no, I'll get someone better than you. That's the way I look at it.
Got you. That's a great way to look at it. Great way. Because it's tough. I ain't gonna lie. Hey, I've been beating Rex up trying to get him on.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing, man. If there's somebody that I know that maybe you want to get in contact with, you know, I mean, I'll help you with that too.
I appreciate it. Definitely appreciate that. Definitely. No, I enjoyed it, man. I had a blast, man. I love talking about the good old days, man. Definitely love talking about that stuff, and I'm glad I could share with you on your podcast.
For sure, man. I'm definitely gonna keep up with yours because you've had, like you've already had star-studded guests already, man. You've been. Yeah,
I'm gonna get it going. I'm gonna get my headphones going. You know, I'm gonna step my game up a little more. I'm gonna step it up a little more. You know, I'm a baby. You're a baby. I'm a baby. I'm a little. You know, I'm still. And they're still holding me. You know what I'm saying? At least you walking right now.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun though, ain't it, man? Like it's fun just sitting there talking.
It is fun. Like Jeff, him and Coach Smith, they were the earliest podcast, and I was like, you motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Like Coach Smith wanted at 8 a.m. And then Jeff yesterday was like 7:30. I was like, oh my gosh, like you guys are killing me right now. Come on. What, we about to go to a 6 a.m. workout or something, man? And Jeff was like full collar shirt, like ready. I was
he's already pressed and everything, ironed his shirt.
What time you wake up, man?
You're like still in your pajamas and stuff. You got to put the camera where it's just showing your head so you can't see what you're wearing.
My guys is like, hey, man, Wayne's been getting some early podcasts. I'm like, hey, we want them in. I gotta, we gotta get it. You know what I mean?
That's what I told you, man, because you were like, oh, I don't know if I could do it. I was like, look, man, you're helping me out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what time it is, especially since it's Friday. I was like, I don't care. Like, I'm off for the weekend, so if you want to do it at 1 a.m., I don't care. You're giving me your time, so that's the other thing.
Give you some time, man. That's why I kept, because I was like, damn, I gotta go by the store because I had to get my daughter from Lex. She lives in Lex, so I was like, shoot, it's gonna have to be. I was like, let's say to be safe. Then I was like, damn, I gotta stop by the store. Let me say 8:30.
Man, I don't want to keep you too much longer, though. Wayne, I appreciate it so much, and I had a blast just talking about and hearing stories that, I'd never heard.
Mm-hmm.
And man, let's do it again. No, if something
Yeah, no
comes up
doubt.
where we can talk again, let's do it again.
Definitely.
All right, man.
Man. Well, you have a good night.
You too, man.
Appreciate it.
I'll talk to you later.
All right.